I've been testing Figma Make for the past 2 weeks. I pushed it to its limits, and the verdict I have is that it's bad. It's quite bad at many things, but it is good at some things. I did use it for actual work, convincing some stakeholders sometimes. So I wanted to highlight these instances of Figma Make being very helpful so that you guys can use it also. Getting a few things out of the way. This is not going to be a tutorial. I'm not going to be explaining how I did all of these. Most likely it's pretty easy for you to pull this off too. Quickly, Figma Make currently is a tool which is advertised by Figma as a tool which will be helping in prototyping and heavily which Figma kind of lacks at, and it can generate you interfaces, and it can also ideally streamline the workflow a lot. But at the moment, by the time of the video being recorded, it's not that great. But here are three things that work. First time I actually used this for one of my projects was when I had a 2-day deadline to share an ideation of a prototype which involved dynamic data where numbers had to change, and the UI has to adapt according to data, and certain interaction had to do certain things. I won't be showing you the exact things that I was doing. For a situation like this, I created a quick prototype which helped me to communicate this idea and get initial alignment very fast before I even stepped into high fidelity designs. And it looked something like this, where you had to add things to get this flash deal construct, and if you add some other things, the flash deal construct would not go through. So this prototype kind of emulates that, where only when you add this flash deal construct it moves, and when you add enough it will unlock, and then there is whole calculations happening in the background. A little hard to explain it with a dummy version of the prototype, but this helped out a lot. So anything related to dynamic data, this is kind of a go-to when it comes to that. And one thing you might notice is that I'm showing you a wireframe, and you might see the wireframes for every single thing that I'm showing, because wireframes is what I use Figma Make for, because it's not that good at making high fidelity design. It can make high fidelity design if you're starting from scratch on a brand new app, but it is not as good if you have an existing design language and you want to recreate that design language over here. Okay, the second example I use it for was to communicate motion. So I had to communicate motion design of different elements to developers. One problem that Figma has currently is that even if you give a motion to developers in Figma, sometimes you say 300 milliseconds work well, but the 300 milliseconds in Figma versus the one that the devs implement would be different. And I do not know why that is the case, why something emulates differently in Figma versus dev environment. And that is one case. And second thing is, creating animations in Figma in general is kind of a tedious process. So what I did here was, so for let's say for animations like these, where I had to emulate how a page transitions would happen versus how a tab transitions would happen, things like that. It's a little bouncy and it has certain timing to it. Instead of me going and creating prototypes for every single interaction like this, I just made it with Figma Make. It took me 2 hours. It would have taken me half a day if I was doing this on regular Figma. And second good thing that I created from this was I created a token set for motion, which now devs can take. So I instructed the AI to create a token set like this, where every motion curve that is being used across this is coming from this token set, so that devs can also implement this token set and then quickly emulate the exact motion that I'm suggesting here. Makes the whole transfer quite easy. The third is the vital reason why you must be using Figma Make for, again in wireframe format, which is to communicate complex interactions. Okay, let's look at this interaction. So what happens here is that there is a progress bar, a circular progress bar, which will complete, and once that circular progress bar completes, it will auto scroll the person to the next card, and this card will also scale up when that happens. And there is also an ability for you to manually scroll these things, and wherever you stop, then the progress bar continues from there. If you have ever used Figma for prototyping, you know how hard it is to create an idea or a concept like this. It is extremely hard to prototype. If I sat to prototype this thing on my own, it would take me at least a day to properly get all of these done in this quality, while this took me 15 minutes, and I can communicate the idea that I had in my mind through this. Or even I I was able to create some interactions which in my mind did not work, but when I tried it out, it worked. So these are brand new interactions that are not even there or tested out. So it's very good at like testing out new ideas, and mostly in wireframe format. You can suggest it to make it as a wireframe to start with. Currently my workflow goes like this, where I create interactions and animatable things in Figma Makes, and then I also create a high fidelity version of it visually in Figma, so that like whenever I'm showing it to people, I can first show them the interactions by showing this prototype, and then I'll be showing them the high fidelity design for them to see how the visually how this will look like. Hopefully in the eventually like we can make those high fidelity designs also this level of interaction, so that you don't need to really have two sets of things and let people imagine and so on. So these are the few things that I see Figma Make helping a lot with. One, dynamic data. Second, like communicating things to developers more effectively if you can, like if you're trying to share tokens and all. And then third would be like interactions which are quite hard to replicate or like create on Figma. You can just make it in Figma Make and then share it to your stakeholders. I usually don't make videos like these explaining about nuances of a tool, but this is an exception. I wanted to share these things. If you want me to actually make a tutorial for like how to get things to this extent, or some tips and tricks on how I use Figma Make, you can leave a comment. Maybe I'll consider it for a future video.